Okay, today we are going to talk about this foundation. It's the Maybelline SuperStay Lumi-Matte foundation, which I believe this foundation is now only available in Asia, if I'm not wrong, but as far as I know, this is only available in the Asian area. This foundation was a bestseller in basically the Chinese beauty community, and I think it's now still pretty popular, but it's not in the spotlight anymore. But I have tried this pretty thoroughly for a long term of time, so I feel like it's finally the time that I feel comfortable to talk about it. And actually all the footages that I filmed, the wear tests are probably 2 or 3 months before my move into this new space, so the lighting may be looking a little different, but I do have my notes on my phone, so I still remember what I felt in each of those try-ons. Because I have there's a gap between the wear test and right now, I also have used a couple times in between, so I think I overall have a better understanding of this product. So in case if any of you are interested, because I think on TikTok for a number of times this was, at least for me, it was all over my For You page, everybody was trying it and recommending it. So in case anybody is interested, this Chinese bestseller allegedly foundation, which is funny that it's not a Chinese brand, it's Maybelline. First of all, actually I have 2 of these. When I first want to try this, I didn't want to commit to a full bottle, so I got this little sample size that pretty big sample size, right? It's 10 mils. It's a third of a bottle, even though it doesn't look like a third, but it is a third of a bottle. And then they started a campaign at the biggest makeup shopping website, at Cosme. It has this program that you can apply for their product, and if they send you, you write a review for them, which I think a lot of big makeup shopping sites does this. And I did win one, so I got one little sample and also got a full bottle sent to me. Oh, actually now I look at it, a full bottle is 35 mils, so I guess it's a little less than a third of a bottle, but it doesn't matter. Even though the intro is already too long, I want to mention my lip combo because I really have been loving this combo. I am wearing 2 colors right now. One is this Romand Dewy Full Water Tint in the shade 12, and this is the Natural Republic Melting Lip 11 Tint Plumbing. I'm not sure if the tint plumbing is the shade name, but it's what it said on the packaging. And I just applied this one all over my lips, and the formula is very thin and it's tinting your lip in a true color, because a lot of lip tints tend to become such a dark color and eventually turning red or pink, which this one is staying pretty true to its color, and it's very comfortable to wear. But it's not a high shine finish, which I actually prefer a high shine finish. So I added this one, and this one is one of those color changing things. The first is a little bit clear, and then it turns into this cool tone pink, which I don't like it on itself. But this cool tone pink layered on the center, combined with the high shine finish that this thing has, and mixed with the color this tint has, just creates this color that I have been loving. And I literally have been wearing this lip for a month straight. I think I didn't even wear anything else. I just wore these two. So yeah, that's what I just want to not so briefly mention. Okay, let's get into the Maybelline foundation. And I think I have, because it's 1 or 2 months ago, so I don't remember exactly. I think I have a 5 or 6 days test already. And now it's the 7th day. Today I mixed it with this concealer. It's the Dior concealer that I always use. It's like working so well. And these two blends absolutely beautifully together. It just loosened the texture of that concealer for a bit for it to like blend effortlessly and very easily and spreads further than the concealer could. And I really like it. It's actually looking pretty flawless. The glow is not from these two, but I think it looks pretty smoothing on skin, and it's super comfortable to wear. It's one thing about this foundation, it's just so comfortable. And before we get into the wear test, I just want to talk about the shade range and the overall like formulation of this. First of all, because this is only, I believe maybe even like dedicated to the East Asian area, the shade range is just not great. I think I am mostly light medium skin with warm olive undertone. I think they have 3 undertone. One is N, which is natural. I think it's like a neutral undertone. And the other is W, I think is warm. And W, the W shades are pretty olive actually. They are not super orange. But the jump between the shades are just crazy. I have tried the shade W and W20 and W30. Those two shades, the gap it has is like the W20 is a fair to light shade or like a true light shade, and W is deeper than like medium. It's almost a tan shade. So I think if it's Fenty, it probably has 5 to 10 shades in between of those two shades. So for me, W20 is too light and W30 is too dark. It's really is too dark. I can use one as highlight and one as a contour. But what I'm using is N20 because this is the only option they have for the present program. And this one, it's not orange and it's not too pink. It's just not yellow enough for me because I am warm olive, and it doesn't really have that green, you know, the oliveness in it. So that's why the shade is a little bit off for me. But blending with this concealer, which is very olive and a little bit too dark for me, is actually perfect. Formulation is actually great, but the shade range can be a struggle if you would want to try this formula. And I wouldn't really recommend you to like blind buy the shade, especially if you always struggle with the shade match. And I think if you're light to light medium skin tone with a neutral undertone, you can just pick the number N. And if you are light skinned but with olive undertone, I think W10 or W20 could work for you. But if you're like me, you are like light medium with olive skin tone, you would need mix 2 shades, maybe W20 and W30, which I don't think is ideal at all because this foundation wasn't that affordable. I think it's about $12 to $15, which is a little bit high for a drugstore brand. Also, for the overall formula, let me show you. It's actually very thin. It's pretty liquidy. It's not like a watery kind of liquidy, but you can see it's like pretty runny, right? And let me show you a swatch. I don't know if you can tell from me blending it here, but it's so thin. I'm almost feeling like blending watery essence like a skincare, but eventually as you work in it does get thicker, so it's not like skincare that you will melt into your skin, obviously, because this is foundation. It means to stay on the surface. But yeah, initially when you are spreading it out, it feels such a thin texture, and it's pretty comfortable to wear. This is like a watery, kind of a little bit silicone type of texture. I'm not talking about ingredient. I don't know what ingredient is in there. I'm just talking about feeling. It feels watery and a touch silicone, which I think is why it's so smooth on the skin. And overall, I think it's a satin finish towards a little bit matte side. So if you want a glowy finish, this is probably not for you. It's a light medium but beautiful coverage, and again it's like a satiny matte finish, and it's pretty smoothing and pretty lightweight texture. Okay, let's get into the test, wear test part. Day 1, I wore the Can Make sunscreen, which is a very great sunscreen if you want to try a Japanese sunscreen, and this is the one that you can find. I actually really recommend. And I used the RCMA No Color powder, which is a classic. It basically works with most foundations. And I have the RMS Rose Champagne Luminizer on, and some sort of blush. On this day, I feel like it's the first day that I try this. I feel like it has a satin finish and need a little effort to blend. Almost like it needs longer time to blend for the formula to settle. When I was swatching it on my hand, I said that the longer you're working, you do feel like it becomes thicker. And I think I was talking about that in this note. So you need to blend it longer for the formula to get thicker, melt with your skin better, and sets on your skin better, basically. Which typically this type of formula works well with fingers. So blend with your fingers, which I think in my memory I did one day before after this. It's not emphasizing pores on the most part, and a little bit settlement happened on the pores though, so like it's just a tiny bit, and it looks very natural and very thin on the skin. It's not thick at all. Now we have a 9 hours check-in. I did have a 1 hour nap rubbed against my sleeve while sleeping, and had some foundation wiped off, of course, because I think most foundation will be wiped off in that situation. But the oil control was good, so I think this is more for the combination to oily side of people. But if you have dry skin and you do your skin prep well, I think you can still use this. It's like on the middle part of the formulation, but leaning towards the oily and combination side a little bit. And this is day 1 that I was pretty impressed. Just found it's settling a little bit in my pores. Day 2 is the same blush, the same skincare, but like I did a little bit more, like a little bit touch more skincare, because I discovered this foundation is a little bit on the matte side. And then this day blending this, I used a cushion pad, which is those little pads that comes with a cushion, and my personal favorite is from Armani. I only used a very small amount of powder around my eye because I want to test the wearing power without much powder here. It was 8 hours outdoor, 25-degree weather. I was a little bit oily, but it looks pretty smooth throughout the day and it's not moving around much. As I said, the more you work it in, the more product becomes thicker and it sets. So it has some pretty decent staying power. Not a very, hardcore staying type of foundation, but has a decent staying power. I used it as eyeshadow base as well, and it wasn't that much creasing, just like a little bit because I have hooded eyes. Okay, and this is day 2. And day 3, I did even more skincare on this day. And I used the Biore sunscreen, the blue one, the Aqua Rich one that is the most popular from them. And I used a brush to apply this, and I felt like it was not as good as a cushion pad, which I kind of felt the same today as well, because today I used a brush as well. I worked the product in the brush very well, and normally in this way a foundation is gonna apply so effortlessly, but today I did need just a little bit more time to blend it. As I mentioned, when you first apply it on your skin, the product is still so thin, so it needs time to settle on your skin, so it basically needs more time for you to blend it. So yeah, I was talking about that here. Still, I did minimal powder, and up to this day I did no setting spray at all. So day 1 to day 3, no setting spray. Oh, I had to mention I was using a powder blush in my notes. So I wasn't setting this area, but it was a powder blush directly on top of that foundation, and it applies normally. It doesn't get like gross or something, because sometimes if you apply a powder blush on top of an unset foundation, it become this like a gooey type of thing on your skin. It doesn't look right. It didn't happen with this foundation, as long as you are applying the blush after the foundation sets. I was in the office all day. There's one thing about the office air. I feel like when I'm at the office, I don't know if it's the circulating air in the close environment making my skin so much more oily that it does outdoor environment, outdoor air circulation. If you think about this normally, an outdoor environment will be more challenging, but for me personally, a combination skin, my skin is just more oily inside, unless it's like 40 degrees outside, which is like burning, which in that sense it would be more of a challenge outside. But other than the extreme weather, generally speaking, I'm just more oily indoor. So I was talking about that in this day. Office all day, as I said, and I did a 9-hour check-in with no touch-up. I don't do touch-up at all. The only touch-up I do normally is just this, and that's it. If I really feel like it, I will take a tissue paper and gently pat, and that's what I do for touch-up. So all the these wear test days, I didn't do any touch-up. I was a little bit oily, but bearable. It's less than other foundations with the same product working together. It didn't really move around much, and it didn't really settle into my pores that much, which is sometimes a lot of foundation does settle into my pores. So this foundation was pretty nice actually. Okay, this is day 3. Day 4, I skipped moisturizer because I want to see if this can work with dry skin. So even though, combination skin, even if you don't use skincare, like a moisture type skincare, it's probably still not the same as dry skin. But I think I can like mimic that for a little bit. At least when you are applying your foundation, your skin is not that moisturized. You can tell a lot about the application with dry skin, I think. But I did use sunscreen, so please consider that. The Biore sunscreen, and I set with a Dior setting spray on this day. and then powdered on the T-zone, some extra powder on my whole face. So basically concentrate on here and a little bit light powder all around. So basically I was going for like a full-on staying power test on this day. Didn't use any blush, bronzer or highlight for the test reasons. I don't want them to mess up with the wearing power. I did wear a mask on this day. I was going to a therapy session to treat my shoulders because I had a severe shoulder pain in this period of time. And basically in the therapy session, one of the thing is they are gonna do massage. So basically I'm planting my face into this pillow. Like the pillow was like two round things combined together, so there's like a dent inside, and they put a paper towel on top of it and you just plant your face into that paper towel. So it's like a pretty much rubbing against that paper towel for like half an hour. The mask wear was for an hour in that therapy session, and 30 minutes out of it was on the paper towel and the mask. So like a double layer. So it has some transfer and it did move a little bit. So basically it wasn't something that's like magical that it won't move during even after 30 minutes of constantly rubbing against a paper towel. It does come off, but it wasn't coming off on the like ugliest way, but it did move around a little bit, so it doesn't really look that perfect compared to where it just applied. Which I think is just every foundation, you know, it's just proving this is not worse than other foundations, but if you are really expecting this one to be out of an ordinary at the staying power, it doesn't. 10 hours check-in. So the therapy session was at around 2 hours wear, and I wear a full 10 hour at this day, like continuously. And it wears off nicely. It was a little bit oily as well because that day was a hot day, but it wasn't super patchy or anything. Okay, this is day 4. Day 5, it's the same prep as day 4 because I just want to test more about staying power. So there's no moisturizer used, just sunscreen. I add a little bit more powder, and I wore the mask the whole day in the office. So it wasn't like rubbing against a pillow for a long time, but I was in the office, which as I said, I was like always very oily in the office. And on that day, it still came off on the mask a little bit, but it wasn't like that much considering I was wearing it for like 9-10 hours. At the end of the day, still it moved around a little bit. It was acceptable. So yeah, that's 5 days of wear test. And this is day 6. I am still indoor and the weather has changed. It's 35 degrees outside, and even though I have AC on indoor obviously, but still I think it's something about the summer air just make your skin so much more oily. I am normally a little bit more oily, but I think at this stage I have worn this for like almost an hour. It wasn't becoming that much more oily, which I find is like pretty hard to achieve in this weather. So I think overall my thoughts on this is it's a thin texture, but you do need a little bit time to work it in because it has to become this like thicker texture to stay on your skin. It says it's a Lumi-Matte foundation, but it's just like a satiny matte foundation. It's not so plain, like so plainly matte that it has no dimension, but it's not like it has any glowy finish or anything. For example, this Dior one, I think this is a true satin finish. It won't make your skin any matter, but it also doesn't add any glow. So I think if anything, this is a neutral product. It doesn't add anything, but it doesn't take anything either. But I think this is a little bit more on the taking side, you know, it's taking away a little bit of the shininess. So really, if you really want a glowy base, it's really not for you, unless you're gonna, you know, layer a lot of highlights on top. I guess that way it doesn't matter. But yeah, it stays pretty well, but it's not like such a hardcore staying like a professional you're gonna perform in a 4-hour concert. It's not that type of foundation, but for daily usage it does wear better than the other very glowy foundations in general. So what I like to use this is to mix with other foundations to make the texture just has a little bit more staying power. Like today I did with mixing with this one. It also says on the package is resist transfer and sweat all day wear, which I think, again, if you're gonna, like me, going on a therapy, plant your face into a pillow and rub for 30 minutes, it's gonna come off. And if you wear a mask all day for like 9-10 hours, it still comes off. It's not some sort of a magic that it can defeat the physics here. It's not gonna do that. It's just a tiny bit more staying power than a normal foundation. It's light as air feel all day long. No cakey, no dry. I would say this is 75% correct, very specific. But yeah, it's light as air. You doesn't feel it on your face. It's so lightweight, and it does wear all day long, depending on your concept of wearing all day long though. But it doesn't wear off ugly. It does become a thinner layer on your face. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wears off evenly. It doesn't wear off ugly. And it wears off a little bit less than an average foundation. And it's not cakey, but it can be a little bit dry. So depending on your skin type, you maybe need a little bit more skin prep, especially if you have this like dry patch or anything. It doesn't emphasize that you do have to have more skincare on to make this work. And it also says it's Lumi-Matte look and buildable coverage, which was true. Overall, I really liked this foundation. I don't mind to have this in my collection. I kind of can understand the hype around this, because when it comes to matte foundation, it's always so full coverage, and sometimes the formula is so thick and it doesn't feel so comfortable on the skin compared to the natural or slightly glowy finish. A lot of time it feels like such a layer on skin, but this one it wasn't. It's the current trend, you know, the current skin tint light coverage base trend, but it's a semi-matte, satiny matte kind of version of that. So if you don't really like those super glowy type of skin, you know, finish, but you still like the concept of a skin tint and light coverage foundation, I think this one could be a good option for you. But again, it wasn't like revolutionary or anything. It's just considering the current market, everything is so focused on being glowy. This one could be in the minority there. So I think it could fit the needs for a certain group of people. Yeah, and that's my whole review for this Maybelline SuperStay Lumi-Matte foundation. And let me know if you like this type of review, because I think normally I don't really do wear tests this much and with this much of like the wear test footages on different days. I just thought this way it might be more accurate and I can know the product better than just test it one day on camera. Let me know if you prefer this or if there's anything you would want me to add. Okay, that's it. Hope this is helpful for you and thank you so much for watching. Bye.